Have you ever felt like you don't belong? Like everyone around you seems stronger, smarter, or more successful than you? Have you ever been laughed at because of where you come from, the way you speak, or because you're different? If your answer is yes, then today's story is for you. Because this is the story of a boy who was mocked, ignored, and treated like an outsider. Yet he refused to let the world decide his future. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte, and his journey would change the history of Europe forever. The year was 1769. On a small Mediterranean island called Corsica, a baby boy was born. His family wasn't rich. They didn't have great power or influence. His father, Carlo Bonaparte, worked as a lawyer, and his mother, Letizia, was a strong and disciplined woman who believed in hard work and sacrifice. Life was simple, sometimes difficult. But from an early age, Napoleon was different. While other children played, he loved reading. He read books about ancient heroes, great kings, famous battles, and powerful empires. The more he read, the more his imagination grew. Deep inside him, a fire had already started burning. A dream, a hunger, a belief that he was meant for something bigger. Then, at the age of 9, everything changed. His father made a decision that would alter the course of his life. Young Napoleon was sent to France to study in a military school. For a small boy from a tiny island, it felt like entering another world. France was wealthy, powerful, elegant. But for Napoleon, it was also a lonely place. He spoke French with a strong Corsican accent. The other boys laughed at him. They called him names. They treated him like he didn't belong. And those moments hurt him deeply. But instead of becoming bitter, he became stronger. Instead of crying, he studied. While others spent time having fun, Napoleon spent his nights reading and learning. He became excellent at mathematics. He loved geography and military history. And little by little, something powerful began to grow inside him. Confidence. Not loud confidence, not pride, but a quiet belief that being different wasn't a weakness. It was a strength. At just 16 years old, Napoleon graduated from military school and became an officer in the French army. He was still young, still unknown, but history was about to open a door for him. Because France was changing, and change often creates opportunities for those who are prepared. The people of France were angry. The rich lived in luxury, while ordinary people struggled with hunger and poverty. Finally, in 1789, the French Revolution exploded. The country was filled with chaos, fear, violence, uncertainty. But where many people saw danger, Napoleon saw opportunity. He worked hard. He made bold decisions. He showed courage on the battlefield. Again and again, he proved his talent as a military leader. People began to notice him. Soldiers trusted him. Leaders admired him. And then something incredible happened. At only 24 years old, Napoleon became a general. A general. At an age when most people are still trying to find their place in the world, the lonely boy from Corsica had become one of the most important men in France. But for Napoleon, this was only the beginning. He dreamed bigger, much bigger. Battle after battle, he won victory after victory. He became a national hero. The people loved him. And in 1799, he took control of the French government. A few years later, in 1804, he did something that shocked Europe. Inside the beautiful cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of France. He didn't wait for someone else to place the crown on his head. He took it himself. It was his way of saying, "My destiny belongs to me." Soon, Napoleon controlled most of Europe. He changed laws, built schools, created systems that still influence the modern world. Some people admired him, Others feared him. But one thing became clear. Napoleon was never satisfied. He always wanted more. And sometimes, our greatest strengths can become our greatest weaknesses. In 1812, he made the biggest mistake of his life. He invaded Russia. He marched east with more than 600,000 soldiers. It was the largest army Europe had ever seen. At first, everything seemed possible, but the Russian army kept retreating. As they moved, they burned their villages, destroyed food supplies, and left nothing behind. Then came the winter, the brutal Russian winter. The cold was unbearable. Soldiers died from hunger, disease, and exhaustion. The mighty army that had conquered Europe began to disappear. Napoleon was forced to retreat, and when he returned, most of his soldiers were gone. For the first time, the world saw something unexpected. Napoleon could be defeated. His enemies joined together. England, Russia, Austria, Prussia. They all fought against him. Eventually, Paris fell. Napoleon lost his throne and was sent into exile on a small island called Elba. For many people, the story would have ended there. But not for Napoleon. Only 10 months later, he escaped. He returned to France, and the people welcomed him back. It seemed like destiny had given him one final chance. But history had another plan. In June 1815, Napoleon fought his last battle, the Battle of Waterloo. This time, he was defeated. There would be no second return. He was sent to a remote island called St. Helena, far away from Europe, far away from power, far away from glory. There he lived quietly for 6 years. And in 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died at the age of 51. The boy from Corsica, the outsider, the general, the emperor, gone. But what can we learn from his story? Napoleon wasn't a perfect man. He made mistakes. His ambition caused suffering. His desire for more eventually became his downfall. Yet there is something deeply inspiring about his journey. He was mocked. He was underestimated. People looked at him and saw an outsider. But he refused to let other people define his future. He believed that knowledge could change a life. He believed that discipline could open impossible doors. And because of that belief, he changed history. Maybe you feel like an outsider too. Maybe your dreams seem too big. Maybe people don't believe in you. Maybe you're learning English, and sometimes you feel slow or discouraged. But remember this. The boy who once spoke with the wrong accent became one of the most famous people in history. Being different is not your weakness. It may become your greatest strength. Keep learning. Keep growing. Keep believing in yourself. Because your story isn't over. In fact, it may just be beginning. If this story inspired you, subscribe to Tales by Hasiba for more powerful stories that teach history, life lessons, and wisdom that can change the way you think. And remember, never let the world decide how small you must remain.